James, we'll kick things off by talking about Chelsea. Of course, they set up this kind of, soft transfer deadline with regards to Enzo Martinez. That'll be it. If it wasn't done today, then it will never be done. Enzo Fernandez.
Enzo Fernandez, surely.
It's Friday. It's Enzo someone.
Yeah.
He's still at Chelsea, so is that it? He's not going to go to Manchester City?
Well, if you believe what Chelsea say, then yeah. I mean, I think what they're trying to do, and the reason why they've drawn this deadline when they have, is, to make sure this doesn't bleed into the season and kind of give Xabi Alonso the cleanest possible start to the campaign. Now, of course, we don't entirely know yet how Enzo Fernandez is going to react to this because, from what we've been told, he and his representatives were given the terms that Chelsea would accept for his departure back at the end of May. And the potential suitors, of which we only think there've really been two, Real Madrid, and they kind of ruled themselves out quite early last month. And then Manchester City have been told you've got to pay £120 million and meet certain payment conditions within that. And I suspect the bulk of that is up front and not reliant on add-ons. And if you reach that and you meet that price, then we'll allow him to leave. And they've decided to say, well, look, we're not going to let this run beyond Friday, and if no club is prepared to meet those terms, then that's it. We're drawing a line under it. But as I say, if Enzo Fernandez reacts negatively to this, and of course he's the one who tried to instigate this at the start of the summer by saying that he wanted to go. His agent was quite public about suggesting, I think to Marca it was, the Spanish newspaper, that they were going to explore their options. And if he reacts badly to this and tries to force through a move, and then City come in late in the window, perhaps when Rodri's gone to Barcelona, then Chelsea's position is going to be tested. But for now, they're absolutely adamant, this is it. He will not go, and he is a Chelsea player. Not just until January, by the way. They've ruled out a January sale privately as well. They're talking about this is it now until next summer, and then they'll, of course, assess it again.
The boys were talking yesterday, Kieran, and they're like 120 million, really, for Enzo?
Yeah, it sounds excessive. It sounds excessive. I think he's a good player, but, when you compare him to some of the midfielders that Man City have had over the last 10 years that have brought them so much success, I don't think you can put Enzo Fernandez yet in that bracket. I don't think he's done enough in a Chelsea shirt, if I'm honest. He's obviously a World Cup winner and he has the ability to be a world-class player. But the market is overinflated at the moment anyway, and it always is off the back of a World Cup. So, listen, I think, would he go in and replace a Rodri? No.
Very different type of player, obviously.
Completely different. And obviously I think Reinders looks to be on his way out as well. So, it's interesting times at City, but for this move, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be unhappy if, as a City fan, if they didn't sign him.
How are the Chelsea fans fit? We know supporters in general are fickle. If Enzo comes in, starts the season, brilliant for Chelsea, all of this is forgotten. But Shaka, as a teammate, how much does this bother you? Is this an issue?
From a Chelsea perspective?
Yeah, that you see a teammate off flirting.
I don't think it bothers Chelsea's players that often. You're kind of used to these things happening more times than not, especially when you've got World Cup winners and the talents of both Enzo Fernandez and Enzo Martinez on your books. How you cope with that? You know there'll be comings and goings. That's just kind of part and parcel. I just continue to add that, as I said yesterday, 120 million just seems over the top for Enzo Fernandez. I stand by that. Whether Chelsea are willing to be flexible on that, again, time will tell.
Where do you stand on Chelsea as a whole this season, Kieran? I quite like that. No one's asked my opinion, but I'm going to give it to you. So
go on, tell us what you think, Dan.
You can speak from experience. How much of a difference does it make that you don't have any European football? That Xabi Alonso can pretty much focus on just getting his team ready, getting the best out of this side every weekend in the Premier League?
It's a huge, you have to call it a huge advantage in terms of load of a team. But at the same time, when you are performing well in Europe, sometimes that confidence carries into your domestic league. So, I didn't play outside of Europe as a player at Arsenal, but certainly when I was at West Brom, it feels like it's just a completely different world. You have much more time to recover. Tactically, you can do more on the field. And honestly, Chelsea have done some shrewd business this summer so far.
What do you like? What do you like?
I love Danny Welbeck in there.
Of course you do. He's your old boy.
He's a good friend of mine as well. I have to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Jordan Henderson, even though he's probably not going to play much, but I think Danny's going to have more of a say than probably what people think. And knowing him personally, he's always wanting to prove a point. So I think he's going to have a big impact at Chelsea this year. But yeah, I'm more optimistic than I was for Chelsea than the last few years. I think whilst they still have huge problems from the top, at least they have someone that's very, very competent in Xabi Alonso.
What sort of impression has Alonso made so far, James, from what you're hearing?
Yeah, positive one. I mean, look, he obviously follows someone in Liam Rosenior who, look, I don't want to speak too disparagingly about him because I think he's a good guy, but I'm not sure he ever really commanded the respect in the dressing room. Whereas obviously Xabi Alonso comes in with a much different profile as a coach, much better reputation clearly as a former player as well. And I think he's come in with a clear game plan that has been backed in the market so far and is giving Chelsea a bit of identity. Clearly he's got to hit the ground running. Everybody knows that Chelsea don't have European football this season and need to make a serious play. I don't think anybody's expecting them to win the Premier League, but certainly Champions League qualification is the minimum aim. And as far as I know from a few conversations I've had, that he's impressed people with his ideas, the clarity of thought. And I think the training sessions have been particularly innovative and exciting for the players as well. So, look, I mean, everybody buys into it in August, right? I mean, ask me in November and we'll probably have a clearer idea of where he is.
We saw Enzo Maresca speaking ahead of the Community Shield, speaking about what Manchester City are going to do over the next couple of weeks. What can we expect with regards to that transfer activity, James?
With City, well, I mean, they're in a situation where I think they probably would have liked to get the Enzo Fernandez deal over the line. I think that interest is genuine, but they don't know what's going to happen with Rodri, and I think the Rodri one is a really difficult one for them because he's clearly the best player in the world in his position, but also they know they're going to lose him for nothing in a year's time. And do they say, well, look, they've set quite a high asking price for Rodri for Barcelona, who are getting incrementally closer to that. And if you're Enzo Maresca, you probably think, well, look, I'd actually quite like Rodri for 1 year. Yeah. I obviously, I suspect he will be given time. I think everybody appreciates that he's following one of the greatest, if not the greatest manager in history in Pep Guardiola, and he's going to need everybody on board for that. But, if you're Enzo Maresca, you're sitting there and thinking, well, actually, I need this guy who's, as I say, obviously elite on the pitch, but also an absolute leader off of it. And they're clearly reshaping their midfield with Elliot Anderson coming in. If Enzo Fernandez was to come in as well, and what that would look like and how they're going to really sort of reshape the engine room, it really creates a lot of uncertainty for a manager who, let's be honest, was appointed really as the continuity candidate, right? He was the kind of idea, the guy who, the idea of him essentially was he's worked under Pep. His football is quite similar to Pep. He knows some of the players from or certainly a lot of the staff from when he was there a few years before. Obviously, he left to start managing Leicester and then Chelsea, and he knows the league, so he's got that advantage. But he needs that group and that buy-in straight away. And if he was to lose someone like Rodri, particularly this close to the season, with obviously a week to go, it would be a significant setback for him. Yeah,
you've been there. You've played with big leaders within a dressing room, Kieran. How important, considering the transition we've already seen from City, that Pep has left, that you keep someone like Rodri for what they do off the pitch as well as on it?
Yeah, I completely agree with James. I think there has to be some carryover when you're doing these transitions, especially at this level, especially when you're competing against a team like Arsenal at the moment, who just look like they're just going from strength to strength. So it will be a huge loss. It will be a huge loss actually if they lose him with the other, losing someone like Pep after so long. It's a new era for the club. So I would have to say that I don't expect City to be near the conversation if Rodri leaves, to be honest, next year.